Hello, this is Jim Austin, Director of Assessment Services at CETE, Center on Education and Training for Employment, with a long-distance orientation to standard setting for the ATP Certification Test Revision Project. My agenda has two goals. I want to overview the examination revision, give a little background on CETE and project activities to date. And for goal number 2, I want to drill into some details of the December workshop at CETE. We're looking forward to working with you to establish a standard for passing the exam. You'll take a sample of test items for familiarization, discuss minimal competence, and make item-level judgments in 2 rounds, which we believe is required for accreditation. First, CETE Assessment Services is partnering with RESNA in this revision with the goal to maintain NCCA accreditation. Our website, given here, shows our mission and vision. Our mission is to create high-quality tests and other assessments, as well as to train others in test development. We use a cycle of design, develop, deploy, and deliver tests using industry standard and best practices. Some examples are a physical capabilities test for firefighter hiring into the training academy, statewide basic peace officer certification tests, as well as statewide technical knowledge and skill tests in Ohio, Mississippi, and West Virginia. We also work with other certification and licensing programs, including floodplain managers and phlebotomy. We have clients across the U.S. and abroad, industry association, business firms, government agencies, and educational institutions at multiple levels. Where do the RESNA tests come from? AT subject matter experts like yourselves are key, and here we have that cycle that I described a moment ago. Everywhere you see a gold key is where there's heavy subject matter expert involvement. The phase that we're at right now is to review and set performance standards. The field tests, the item writing, blueprint, and defining the body of knowledge are already complete. The cutoff score completes occupational content. How much is needed for certification-worthy performance? We'll ask you to consider the test takers at the point of certification, as a frame of reference. They're junior, they have less experience, but they've completed RESNA requirements and are qualified to sit for the exam. Dan Cochran will give a presentation from the Professional Standards Board perspective. They've discussed this extensively. And we'll be describing performance in 2 ordered levels: mastery not shown or non-proficient, as well as mastery shown, which means proficient performance on the exam. Cutoff score is also known as pass-fail, mastery, or proficiency. We'll ask you to consider the borderline proficient candidates for certification. They must have completed all requirements for certification established by RESNA, including experience, education, and various combinations of those. Borderline proficiency, what is the meaning for our panel? Think about borderline test takers with whom you've worked or supervised, or perhaps yourself back in the day when you first achieved certification. They've done enough to pass. They may not be the best and brightest, but that's not the intent of this examination. Borderline proficiency. Consider the ATP candidate knowledge. Think about the certification candidates. The best, who are clearly above the borderline. The poorest, who are clearly below the borderline. These 2 groups are the extremes. Somewhere in between is borderline, and that's what you'll be establishing in a recommendation. Section by section, think about what the top, bottom, or borderline proficient candidates know. CETE will facilitate discussion to develop a picture of the borderline proficient candidate, and we'll use a flip chart to document the discussion. Here's an image of borderline proficiency. You see clearly passing, you see clearly failing, you see the bulk of the average candidates, and what we're looking for is the thin yellow rectangle for borderline proficient. Another way to look at it with the bell-shaped curve, all ATP practitioners shown with the dashed line, entry-level practitioners shown with the solid line, and borderline proficient shown with the vertical point. Think about proficient candidates section by section. This is what we want to facilitate when we get together on Thursday, December 1st. First section is assess the need. So we ask, what are the features of the minimally competent with respect to this section? Second, develop an intervention strategy. What are the features of the minimally competent? The other three sections will go similarly: implement the funded interventions, evaluate the interventions, and then professional conduct. And you see over to the right the weight in terms of the blueprint. So the first three are clearly the most important sections. Evaluate and professional conduct carry less weight in terms of the number of items. What you'll see is a screen which will display the item and ask you, would a minimally proficient test taker answer the item correctly, no or yes? That's your judgment on this item for the pass-fail score. Item essentiality and item quality will be validity ratings, where we ask you to go from 1 through 4 for each and make a judgment about that particular item. There's some navigation, and there will also be a space for comments. And what we do with the comments is we store those aligned to the item, and we use those in maintenance going forward. We ask you to please be prepared. Seek clarification from myself at OSU at that specific email address that's listed there, or from RESNA staff, Melissa Campbell or Dan from the Professional Standards Board. They'll both be at the meeting. Please bring your ideas about borderline or just barely certifiable competence for the discussion we will have to develop a shared framework. Thank you very much.